Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and after 521 pages of reading this book right here, Poor Charlie's Almanack, by basically Warren Buffett's right-handed man, which hero is actually Benjamin Franklin, well, I've learned a lot. And what I've learned most is basically you want to remain a student for the rest of your life, because basically I don't know as much as I think I actually know. Now this book right here, guys, is made out of 11 talks that Charlie Munger actually had, and he puts them together and also rewrites them and answers a bunch of questions. Now if I'm being honest here, I read this book for selfish reasons. This book costs around almost $90 to $70 to sometimes even $120. Now, I read this book looking for information on stocks and more investment tips, but in reality, I was shocked to actually find out how much fulfilling this book actually is. And it's not just business. By the way, it's mostly not business. It's more by psychology and also a way of thinking and creating models in your head. That way you know exactly how to basically solve problems when you encounter those problems. Now, by the way, guys, in this video, I'll tell you 10 of the best things I learned in this book right here. And by the way, obviously, I highly recommend this book. Yes, expensive, but yes, it's going to be worth it, and it's going to have a proper ROI on your investment. Basically, a good return on your investments. And by the way, I do a book review every single week. So if you guys are new here, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified. On top of that, also destroying the like button. And by the way, if it sounds like I'm tired, I've been reading for like the past 5 hours, and that's why, okay? This book, man, 521 pages. I did not want to skip anything, and it was basically 100% worth it. But again, it's a book where there's a lot of carrots here to get to the fun part. So basically, he tells you a lot of information you need to know, and then basically masks it between stories and funny ideas and funny jokes. But in reality, it's all a very fun way to explain complex issues that if it wasn't explained this way, I probably wouldn't have gotten in the first place. So by the way, great work, Charlie Munger, and it's awesome that he's still here with us today. And it's awesome he left such a great legacy with this book, okay? Now, here are the 10 things I appreciate the most in this book right here. And the first thing is basically, in life, you have to deserve whatever it is you actually want, okay? You know, there's a lot of people out there that are frustrated because basically, whatever they want or whatever they wish for is basically what they basically become. But in reality, it's more like whatever you want out of life, you have to go out there and earn it. If you want to be an investor and you want to make a lot of money, you have to go out there and do all the research, read the books, and invest daily and kind of get to know everything, okay? If you want to be a YouTuber like I am, you have to come here every single day, treat it like a job, and keep learning and make videos every single day. And eventually, you'll get exactly what you deserve. But life is not crazy enough to the point where it's going to give you things that you don't deserve just because you're pretty and all that stuff, okay? Because basically, although I am pretty, you know, after 2 years of posting daily every single day, that's why I am where I am today. Now, the second thing I learned in this book is basically you don't need to be the smartest person in the room or basically have a high IQ. In reality, you just need to remain a student and learn something new every single day. Your job, and by the way, Charlie Munger says this all the time, your job as a student is to basically learn something new every single day. And on top of that, remove a piece of ignorance every single day also. And if you do that, it compounds. Information, knowledge compounds, and eventually you'll become a very smart person, right? You know, the person I was when I was 19 years old is in no way the person I am now after reading over 200 plus books. And by the way, I used to be impressed by that, but after reading this book and knowing that Charlie Munger has gone through maybe 500 to 1,000 something books, in reality, I'm no longer that impressed, okay? This guy, man, is so impressive and so amazing. But in reality, you have to remain a student and keep learning every single day and remove bad ideas every single day. Also, that way, you don't become stagnant, but you always keep growing and growing and growing. Now, the third thing I learned is basically your job, and it's also your responsibility to go out there and learn. Because if you don't learn about history, how we got here, how everything works, in reality, it's like going through life as a child. Because in reality, you don't know much about anything. It's like you're doing it for the first time. But in reality, there is so much information out there about how things actually work. So it's your responsibility to go out there and learn about it. And by the way, in this book, I think that they're basically there are no original ideas. It's basically just a compounding of a lot of information from smart people that Charlie Munger basically made his own, because basically that's what he's been doing for his entire life, grabbing information, becoming a learning machine, and then giving it to us in a very easy way to process. Sometimes it's difficult, but it is a very easy way to understand. Now, number 4 is by far my favorite, and it's basically you have to learn a multidisciplinary way to actually go out there and solve problems. Now, the big example in this book is always going to be this right here. To a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Tommy, what does that mean? It means, for example, if you only have one solution, one tool in your pocketbook, you're always going to want to use it. If all you know is math, every problem is going to seem like a math problem. If all you care about is money, is basically every problem is going to seem like a money problem. But in reality, if you have a toolbox filled with tools, a brain filled with ideas and different ways to basically solve problems, you become a much better problem solver. You don't want to be a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. That's what Charlie always says here, and it makes sense, okay? Basically, you don't want to be the one person that knows one thing very well, but in reality doesn't know anything else whatsoever, because then you'll have a problem where basically you only have one way to solve a problem. And by the way, there's no one way to solve a problem. There are multiple ways, and this whole book right here is about a multidisciplinary way to actually go out there and solve problems, kind of how pilots go out there and solve problems through checklists and all those fancy things. Now, number 5 is always invert when it comes to solving problems. Tell me, what does that mean, invert? It means, by the way, impressive here, okay? You read one page about one person in history, Plato or Aristotle or anyone out there, and the next page he's talking about somebody else. There's so many connections to this book that it's just impressive. But the idea is you want to invert, meaning, for example, if you want to know exactly how to solve a problem or how to fix something, learn how to destroy it, and that way you can go ahead and avoid those things to actually basically get the result you actually want. So for example, hey, I want to become a better person, so what do I need to do? Well, how about I go in reverse? Hey, what do I need to do to become a terrible person? Well, I'm not reliable, I'm not nice, I lack courtesy, I'm basically terrible, I steal, I do all these things. Well, let me go ahead and not do those things, and most likely I'm going to be a good person. So you basically always want to go ahead and invert, reverse things. That way you know exactly, hey, how can I go ahead and solve this problem if you're stuck and you don't know how to solve it? Think about, hey, how can I go ahead and destroy this? If I want to help India, like an example here, if I want to help India, well, how can I destroy India? That way I know exactly what to do to actually help them. That's the core idea here. Number 6, ideologies are dangerous. Now, the way I basically understand this is basically ideologies, ideas you hold very fondly and you're not willing to change on. And that's not a good idea. Now, the way Charlie talks about in this book to solve that is basically you become more like Darwin, the man responsible for evolution theory and all that stuff. He spent like around 20 years learning every single basically proponent that the other side was going to bring to him. That way he was prepared. Basically meaning, for example, hey, if I agree on something so good, right? Like I don't want to change my mind about this, right? I have to go out there and learn about the other side's side better than they do to then go ahead and argue my side. That's the entire thing there. And you never want to hold on to an idea so fondly, because in reality, you have to be willing to let things go and grow as a person. You don't want to become stagnant. When you hold on to something, even though proof shows, hey, this is not applicable anymore, in reality, that's when you stop growing, and that's not a good thing. Be careful with ideology and cult mentality. That is not a good thing. Now, number 7 is you have to go out there and pick the right heroes. Now, funny enough, guys, okay, Warren Buffett's hero is most likely Benjamin Graham, right? And then Charlie Munger's hero is basically Benjamin Franklin. And then my heroes are basically Charlie Munger and also Warren Buffett. Now, by the way, I love Warren Buffett, but after reading this book, I love Charlie a lot more than I did, because basically I understand how passionate he is about just helping people learn things, okay? This book is amazing. Every single talk, it's around 11 talks in here. It teaches you something in a simplistic way, but it all comes from, hey, I want you to be better for the future and for yourself. It might come off as like, hey, I'm being funny and this and stuff, but in reality, it's very important. And by the way, it's important you pick the right heroes, because basically your heroes are going to determine exactly who you're going to become in the future. If you have bad heroes, people that are, bad people or like thieves, all this stuff, in reality, usually you're going to become just like them. But if your heroes are people that are very honorable, do whatever you basically want to do in the future, in reality, you're more likely to become just like them. And by the way, he talks about basically, if you have kids, at some point along the way of having kids, your kids are going to respect their friends more than they actually respect you. So in reality, you want to go ahead and make sure your kids are surrounded by good people, right? Their heroes, in a sense, have to be good people. So that's the whole thing. Instead of being like, hey, I want to be your friend, all this stuff. No. Help your children or put them in a place where basically their friends are better than they are. And that way they can go ahead and also improve. And the same thing with you and I. If you want to become better, go out there and find heroes that are better than you and learn from them. By the way, don't just learn from people that are alive and teachers. Go out there and learn from people that are no longer here. For example, from books. By the way, this book right here is by Benjamin Graham, right? And this guy's no longer here. I'm still learning from this guy, but he's no longer here. And his knowledge still lives on. There's a quote that basically says, although I'm not here anymore, I'm not fully gone, because basically my knowledge remains. And by the way, so many connections here that I'm learning from this one book. Now, number 8 is basically, if you want to help someone or persuade them to do something, go towards their interests and not towards morality or ethics. Now, tell me, what does this mean and why do I care about this? In reality, it's important because basically sometimes you might want to help someone, for example, maybe your boss, or for example, your friend, your mom, your parents, and whenever you're trying to help them, say, hey, this is not right. Don't do this. Morally, ethically, it's wrong. Don't do it. Usually, that doesn't work. You want to go ahead and apply it to their interests. Say, for example, hey, if you do this, this will ruin your entire life. It comes from internal now. Hey, this will ruin your entire life, cost you your family, your money, everything you have, the respect, and everything you have out there. This appeals to their interests, things that they don't want to go ahead and lose. Not just morality or ethics and law, that's just separate, but go ahead and appeal to them as individuals and their interests. That's why capitalism works so great, because basically people are chasing their own interests. It's not about, I want to help so many people. No, usually it's like, hey, I want to make money. I want this. I want that. It's about them chasing their self-interest. So appeal to that. Now, number 9, guys, is basically you want to go through life with a mental checklist to go ahead and solve problems. Now, by the way, by the end of this 521-page book, you will have a bunch of different ways to actually go ahead and solve problems. Now, by the way, when we're reading this book, is not a book you read and just basically like, hey, I read it, I'm done. No, you have to have a book next to you to take notes of all of the important things. This book right here, I have like over 5 to 6 pages just of notes. And by the way, he also has a book list here of all the books he's read, actually recommends, by the way. And of course, I'm going to read those books also and make reviews on this channel also. But by the way, it's all about having a checklist. So when you find a problem, go out there and take it to your checklist, and that way you find an appropriate solution. You don't want to be the guy with a hammer. That's not good. And number 10, guys, and the last one is basically, you have to love what you do. That makes it a lot more fun to take something you actually love to do and keep doing it consistently. Warren Buffett is only good because basically he loves what he does. Charlie Munger, the same thing. Bill Gates, the same thing. I love YouTube. I love information and teaching it. So that's why I do this every single day also. And by the way, before I go here, guys, that's basically the 10 things I found in this book that I want to talk about the most. But in reality, there's a lot more information in here that I want you guys to go ahead and read. And by the way, that's basically just the scratch of it. Just a scratch of it. But here's a story that I want to tell you guys, okay? In this book, he talks about this great story. There's this scientist, right? And this scientist won a Nobel Prize. And he won this prize, and now he goes around town in Germany, right? And does the same talk over and over and over again, right? And he has a chauffeur, by the way. A chauffeur, like the guy that drives him. And this talk every single night for the past, like, 2-3 years. Now, the chauffeur says, hey, let's keep this interesting. I've memorized the talk. Let me just go out there and basically say exactly what you say. And he says, yeah, go ahead and say. Now, the lesson here is basically, you don't want to be the person that memorizes things but doesn't know the real information behind it. And in some cases, I have been that person basically over and over again when it comes to being in college and so on. But the idea is that basically the chauffeur goes over there and does the whole talk. And then when he's asked a question, a complex question, he says, hey, that question is so simple. I'll have my chauffeur basically answer it. Basically, the other guy that's actually a scientist disguised as a chauffeur, okay? And then that's the whole idea there. But overall, guys, okay, the idea is become a learner and actually understand what you're learning about. Don't just learn it to pass a test, learn it to fully understand it. But guys, overall, that is basically it. This book right here, Charlie's Almanack, is it going to be all about business and stocks? The answer is no. I say maybe 3% to 5% is about that, but in reality, 95% is just about psychology, mental checklists, and how to basically become a better person and a human being by understanding exactly how psychology basically works. It's a very interesting book, and I 100% actually like to read. But guys, overall, I highly recommend it. It is expensive, but I do basically say, hey, if you want to learn more, go ahead and buy this book. The ROI is going to be a lot, okay? I think Charlie's like, what, 96 or like 98 years old? So to get all that information from this guy that's like his whole lifetime in this book right here, for like $70 is still worth it, okay? I'm 23, but now I have skills from a 98-year-old man. Although I don't have everything, because I haven't learned everything in this book, but the answer is I do have some of the skills, and I won't be required to go through the intense process that Charlie Munger went through, because basically I read about it and now I can go out there and practice it. But guys, that's about it for this video. Comment down below and let me know exactly what is your favorite book, and are you gonna read this book right here, and what is the most expensive book you ever bought? I want to know. Comment down below, let me know. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. As always, like this video if you liked it, and if you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a video. And on top of that, also, if you guys want to text me or talk to me one-on-one, join my Patreon, link down below, or send me a DM on Instagram at TommyBryson. And before I go, well, if you want to watch a full video on exactly how I invest my money, well, here's that video right here. Click my picture now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.